We're live.
Council, thank you very much for your attendance today at the June 4th meeting. Staff, delegations, and presenters, we welcome you all. We will begin this gathering by acknowledging that the land upon which we meet is the traditional territory of First Nations people who have a long-standing relationship with the land, water, and regions of Southwest Middlesex. The nations along the banks of the Thames River include Chippewa of the Thames, Oneida Nation of the Thames, Munsee Delaware Nation, and Delaware Nation of Moraviantown. We convey our respect to our First Nations neighbors and thank them for their contributions to our culture, community, and our past, and the partnerships we'll engage in the future. For the public, we meet twice a month at 153 McKellar Street. Public are welcome to attend the meeting, and you are also able to watch us on audio or video. We have live streaming equipment. And just a note that any failure of technology does not impact the decisions that council make. Disclosure of pecuniary interest. Any member of council declaring a pecuniary interest or the general nature thereof. Seeing none, we'll move on. Confirmation of the agenda. Is there any errors or additions? Seeing none? Okay. Motion to accept the agenda as presented. Gill, Emery? Any questions? All in favor? Carried. We are now at delegations and presentations. We're pleased to have Brian Kavanaugh with us today from Infralevel Incorporated. Draft Asset Management Plan and Policy will be presented. Brian, you make yourself comfortable. Kevin's got an eye on you there. He'll make sure your mic's on and things of that nature. Okay, and you take over there. Brian, if there's any questions, would you rather have them at the end of your presentation or during? Any preference?
At the end is great, sir.
Okay, good. Yep, Councilor, aware of that now?
Thank you very much, and thanks for having me, Mr. Mayor and members of council. You'll recall that I joined you on a much colder day in February of this year, outlining the work that we would be doing over the last few months. So I'm happy to join you today and provide you with a summary of the draft asset management plan that we've recently completed, as well as the draft asset management policy. We've worked closely with your staff team over the last 3.5 months, and it's been exciting for me to see a really engaged team, a team that is forward-looking and progressive and has really supported our efforts to put together this asset management plan in a joint fashion. Ontario Regulation 58817 essentially governs the asset management world in Ontario. There's been a number of requirements put in place through this regulation over the past 6 years, outlined on this slide. Beginning in 2019, there was a requirement to complete an asset management policy, which you did, and we've worked for the last few months to update that policy as well. From 2022 through to 2025, there have been increasing requirements for the asset management plans that you have in place. Beginning with core assets in 2022, that would be your water, wastewater, stormwater, roads, bridges, and culverts. That was augmented in 2024 for the inclusion of all assets. So that would be adding things like fleet, buildings, equipment, etc. And finally, in 2025, we've updated your plan to include proposed levels of service, and I'll dig into those details shortly. Long story short, the work that we've done provides compliance with all of these items. It's always really helpful to see when a municipality has a lot of important planning documents in place. I won't dig into all of these items, but I will say that your team has been diligent in planning exercises. We've made really good usage of these documents in preparation of the asset management plan in an effort that all of your planning exercises are coordinated and coherent. Override 58817 is quite prescriptive. It defines the scope of work that we followed for this plan. I'll dig into each of these items throughout the presentation, but to summarize, we've covered your state of local infrastructure, your levels of service, both current and proposed. We've gone through an exercise of risk management and outlining strategy in that regard. Similarly, an exercise in life cycle management and strategy for that. We've looked at growth impacts on asset management. A key piece is the financial strategy that will bring you forward in a diligent manner from a financial sense. And finally, a recognition that asset management is always evolving. There's always more to do. So we've made some recommendations in terms of advancing your asset management maturity. The state of infrastructure essentially answers three basic but very important questions. The first being, what assets does the municipality own? It's good to see that you have a really good asset registry, so you know what you own. We've made good use of that registry as part of this exercise and have addressed all 9 of these asset categories as listed. Question number 2 is, what condition are the assets in? Wherever possible, we've made use of condition assessments, which provide a lot of value, and otherwise using age of assets as a proxy for condition. Finally, how much are the assets worth? You typically have information as to a constructed value or a purchase value. Our exercise has been to make those values current in today's 2025 dollars. In terms of your asset replacement value, this is the breakdown between the 9 asset categories. You'll see a total of just over 424 million. I'll note that in comparison to your previous plan, we have included gravel roads in terms of your overall asset value. The gravel roads have obviously significant value to the community. They're an asset that has been and will continue to be invested in over time. So we have made that addition, and it does significantly increase your overall replacement value of assets. Moving to asset condition, I'll note that 3 of these asset categories have inspected as an assessment method. So inspections have been done for roads, bridges, culverts, and buildings. And that provides a lot of value in terms of having a firm understanding of the condition of those assets. We have made recommendations to continue to inspect those assets and additional assets over time so that our projections and your projections can be as accurate as possible. You'll note on this slide that the overall condition of your assets is good. And I think that this council can take pride in that, knowing that you've managed your assets diligently and you're in pretty good shape. I mentioned proposed levels of service. So these are changes to your existing levels of service. These typically come into play from such items as a strategic plan, your master plans that may be done departmentally, as well as your annual budget process. Examples of proposed levels of service that we've put together through this plan include achieving a 90% of roads in fair condition or better. I'll note as well that a proposed level of service doesn't have to be a stretch goal. It doesn't have to be difficult or expensive. It can really just be a signal to your community that this is something that's important to us. It's something that we're going to continue to invest in, and that we have a standard in place that I think makes sense for yourselves and for your constituents. The second example is the implementation of a CCTV condition inspection program for your storm sewer system. It's an item that will get you a better understanding of the condition of your assets and will allow you to put in place even better financial plans and rehabilitation plans moving forward. Third item, again on the condition assessment side, is continuing with your building inspections and keeping those inspections and condition assessments current on a 5-year cycle. We've completed a risk assessment, risk being a really important and sometimes lost consideration when we exercise our budget annually and plan our work. We really should be considering risk as part of every significant decision. Our risk assessment was looking for risks that could result in loss or reduction in service, personal injury and safety-related items, risks to the environment, financial setbacks, and finally reputational impacts, which are important as well. So we've used your asset registry, which is a few thousand items, and we've looked at on a line-by-line basis both the likelihood of failure, which is typically based on age, as well as the consequence of failure, which is based on the criticality of your assets. Just as a basic example, if you were to compare the importance of a fire truck or a fire pumper in relation to, say, a lawnmower, both are important for service delivery, but I think you'd agree that in terms of criticality, some of your fire assets hold a little more weight and need to be considered as such. So a few examples of high-risk assets include items that have been brought forward as part of your OSIM or bridge and culvert inspection reports that are done biannually. Those repairs are very important. Aged fire fleets are an important item to keep on top of and keep your fleet in shape in terms of condition and age. And finally, aged fire hydrants are important as well to keep on top of in terms of their maintenance and replacement as required. We prepared a life cycle management strategy to cover each phase of your asset's life cycle, that beginning with the acquisition of the assets through the operations and maintenance phase, the rehab, the replacement, and finally the disposal of those items, also including non-infrastructure solutions. So those being things like master plans, condition assessments, investments that you make to better understand your assets. On the right side of this page, I've included a pavement degradation curve. I won't get too technical, but I would just suggest that investments that are made in a timely manner to maintain your assets in a good state of repair, those relatively minor investments into maintenance and minor rehabilitation, they pay off significantly when you look at the full life cycle cost of an asset. So you make those investments in a timely manner and your dollars are very well spent. So we've used the life cycle strategy and moved that into a forecasted look at your capital requirements. And I'm starting with your tax-supported assets, so essentially everything but your water and wastewater, which are covered by rates. So we've looked at your 10-year funding requirements for those assets. On the left side of your screen, the most significant of which, I think not surprisingly, is your road assets. And amongst the 7 asset categories, your needs over a 10-year period are totaling just over $37 million. So we take that $37 million and we compare it against your historical spending and the funding that you expect to have available annually. In this case, that funding availability is about $31.5 million. And as compared against the $37 million required, that results in a funding gap of about $5.4 million over a period of 10 years. So that's about $544,000 annually. Important to note, we do a lot of asset management plans and review a number of asset management plans completed across Southern Ontario. The numbers that you're looking at here in terms of a funding gap are quite low in relative terms. I would say it's not insignificant, but compared to other relatively small municipalities in Southern Ontario, I would suggest you're doing pretty well. One of the requirements of the regulation is to provide recommendations and a strategy towards funding that asset management gap. We are recommending that the municipality continue to invest in a dedicated capital levy as part of your budget process annually. It outlines some of the funding that could be developed through that over a 10 and 20-year horizon based on different levels of a capital levy, understanding that you have a number of challenges financially and competition for capital over time and a competition for funding dollars over time. So this gives a sense of the funding that could be raised through that annual levy. I think it's important to note as well that solving this challenge is not strictly an issue of raising more funds. We also want to continue to make stronger decisions and more informed decisions over time so that we manage our spending. So I recommended enhanced asset conditions, as previously noted. The more we know about our assets, the better and more financially prudent decisions we can make. Suggested enhanced O&M activities wherever possible to minimize life cycle costs. And finally, as you're already doing, to continue to seek grant funding wherever possible. So moving here to your rate-supported assets. So this is your water system and your wastewater system, and including rate increases that have been recommended by your consultant Watson Associates. For your water assets, we've identified a 10-year funding need of about $26 million. Similarly for wastewater, a value of just shy of $22 million, for a total requirement over 10 years of about $48 million. In comparison to the funding available, and again, including the recommended rate increases, that available funding amounts to about $50.5 million, which provides a funding surplus of about $2.4 million over 10 years, or $240,000 annually. And we would recommend that that annual funding surplus be contributed to water and wastewater reserves, and that you monitor the success of your increases over time and look for opportunities to taper those off. In summary, for your asset management plan, significant investments have been made over time. Those investments have resulted in assets that are in overall good condition. You've invested wisely and made prudent decisions over time. I found that your governance program and system that is in place is diligent. The funding gap that we've determined for tax-supported assets, as I mentioned, is relatively small compared to similar municipalities. And we've provided recommendations that will bridge that gap over time in terms of the implementation of annual capital levies. On the water and wastewater side, the rate increases recommended by Watson will fully fund your system, and there's an opportunity to put a small amount of money into your reserves and to grow those funds for a rainy day that inevitably comes. And finally, on your asset management plan, the work that we've done brings you into full compliance with OREG 58817. Moving briefly into your asset management policy, it was refreshing to review your policy. I think it's the best one that I've seen out of many. It was very well done, and the efforts to update it were not significant. I did update in terms of best practices where possible and bridged whatever minimal gaps there were in terms of the regulation. So the updated policy is fully compliant with those requirements. Really appreciate the opportunity to join you this afternoon and to have worked with your staff on this plan. I'm happy to take any questions you may have.
Brian, thank you very much. I found that report very interesting. It was complex, but very understandable. Council, any questions that you would like to ask Brian? From the horseshoe, just raise your hand. Yes, Martin, go ahead, please. Martin, think.
Thank you, Mayor Allen. To Brian, I noticed under stormwater, you have good condition. We're going to be spending millions of dollars on like the outlet drain. And also, I think your replacement cost is a little bit low for stormwater as well. Could you comment on that, Brian?
Thank you for that question, Councilor. I think to the condition perspective, what we're looking at is the state of your existing assets. And my understanding is that you have needs in terms of upsizing and adding to your system, which are both extremely important, but not necessarily captured in the overall condition of your existing assets. So two important items, somewhat, well, definitely related, but not necessarily captured in terms of the condition. So absolutely, you want to keep that in sight in terms of those requirements to both upsize and add to your system. With respect to your question regarding the value of the stormwater assets, we've made use of your registry. We've updated the value of those assets based on inflation or more than standard inflation in terms of the COVID-related increases that we've seen. There's always an opportunity to do a more comprehensive study in the future to get a better or maybe a more detailed review of those asset values. But in terms of the information available, that's sort of the best that we can do, and recognizing that there's always room for improvements, and perhaps we could dig into that question a little further.
Okay. Yes, Deputy Mayor Schultes, go ahead, please.
Maybe through you, Brian. Under asset conditions, we're generally fair to good, but we rated bridges and culverts and land improvements as a board. And I just wanted to speak to those two a little bit.
Absolutely, thank you for the question. With bridges and culverts, we made use of your biannual OSIM report, which was fantastic in terms of the recommendations and very detailed recommendations with pricing. The condition assessment, I would say, was a little bit less comprehensive, so I would take that poor condition with somewhat of a grain of salt. I would suggest that with a little bit more review of the actual conditions, and perhaps as part of your next update, when due, there would be an opportunity to get a bit of a deeper dive into existing conditions. I think, as I said, the recommendations are fantastic, but really honing in on the existing conditions may yield a slightly different result. With respect to the other item was land improvements, I believe you mentioned. There are assets in terms of land improvement that are aged. It's an item that I think would benefit from condition assessments as opposed to just going by age. So I think there's an opportunity to dig into that item further, to look at the actual condition of those assets and perhaps make an update to that assessment. And a lot of times, age-related assessments can be erring on the negative side. You may find that with condition assessments that the results are slightly less negative.
Yes, follow up, Mike, go ahead.
CCTV condition inspection program for storm drains. Just wonder if you could give us a bit of information on that.
Absolutely. As you can imagine, underground assets are sometimes difficult to manage. Out of sight, out of mind. When you do a CCTV condition assessment, you're sending a camera into the system and taking a look inch by inch and foot by foot as to the actual condition of those pipes. And what typically happens is that you can note a number of areas that would benefit from repair. And if you're able to address those repairs on a timely manner, it tends to be cost effective, as opposed to not knowing about those items requiring repair. That may linger and worsen over time and result in more of a significant rehab or replacement project, which is quite expensive. So it's really investing a relatively small amount in that condition assessment to get a handle on the condition of what you own and to be able to put together an annual repair and rehab plan.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions, council? Brian, I noticed in the categorization of municipally owned assets, the comprehensive covered everything that we do own in infrastructure and buildings. I did not see sidewalks in there. Is that part of this study, or is it not part of the study? The term sidewalks was not popping out of the report. Could you speak to that?
Absolutely. Thanks for the question, Mr. Mayor. The sidewalks are, I believe, listed as somewhat of a secondary item within the roads section. So I believe sidewalks and streetlights are addressed and included in your asset registry. Perhaps not highlighted to the extent of the other roads assets. But I'd be happy to dig into that and pull out the numbers, but I believe they are addressed.
As long as they haven't been forgotten, that satisfies the mayor. Okay. Last call for questions. I want to thank you very much. At this point, council will be accepting your report for information if it passes. And further to that, we will revisit the subject at this meeting through staff reports, okay? And you're certainly welcome to stay if you wish, or we'll certainly, our CAO will speak to you later. But whatever your wish is, we will ask for follow the recommendation, or ask for a recommendation to receive the report as information, and we will revisit under staff reports. That being said, council, with no further questions, the council of the municipality of Southwest Middlesex received the presentation from Brian Kavanaugh of the draft asset management plan and policy for information. Is there a mover and a seconder for that, please? Councilor Myers, seconder for that. Councilor Collin. Questions have been asked. All in favor? Carried unanimously. Brian, thank you. And again, as I say, we'll revisit it. We have another presentation with respect to the power system project, Hydro 1, regarding the Long Vista Lakeshore. We're pleased to have Malika here and Nandu. Please make yourself comfortable. Again, Brian, Kevin will keep an eye on you there to make sure you're connected and make yourself at home. And you proceed with your presentation whenever you see fit.
Mr. Mayor, good afternoon, and thank you for the opportunity to speak to council today. I'm Lisa Cara, Manager of Community Relations at Hydro 1, and I'm joined today by my colleague, Nandu Gopalakrishnan, from our project delivery team. Last month, Hydro 1 announced the preferred route for the proposed Longwood to Lakeshore Transmission Line project. Today, we'd like to tell you a little bit more about how we arrived at that decision, and I will talk about the need for the project, the criteria we use to evaluate the route options, the preferred route and its benefits, how we are working with affected landowners, and finally, what comes next on the project and class environmental assessment process. After a short presentation, Nandu and I will be happy to answer any questions you may have. As this council well knows, communities across Southwest Ontario are growing. According to the Independent Electricity System Operator, the electricity demand across our province is expected to increase by 75% in the next 25 years. In the Southwest alone, the Independent Electricity System Operator anticipates demand to quadruple by 2035. To meet this need, Hydro 1 will continue to invest in the transmission system. In Southwest Ontario, we are working on a network of electricity infrastructure projects that will provide many regional benefits, including improved resiliency and reliability, economic growth and investments, and support for local industry and the thriving agriculture sector here at home in Ontario. We're making steady progress to plan and build this network. The Chatham to Lakeshore project went into service in December 2024. The St. Clair transmission line goes into construction very soon. And that brings us to the latest project update and the focus of our presentation today. The proposed Longwood to Lakeshore transmission line project includes 2 new single-circuit 500 kilovolt transmission lines, lines 3 and 4 on the map shown, extending approximately 118 kilometers from Longwood Transformer Station, located in Strathroy Caradoc, to Lakeshore TS in Lakeshore. Next slide, please. In February 2024, we commenced a class environmental assessment for the project. Through the Class EA, Hydro One undertakes consultation and engagement with Indigenous communities, government officials, agencies, interested persons, and organizations, consideration and evaluation of alternatives, including alternative routes for proposed projects, an assessment of the existing environment and ways to mitigate potential effects before decisions are made about proceeding with the proposed project. After completing this process, Hydro One will submit an environmental study report to the Ministry of Environment, Conservation and Parks. That report will be released in draft form for public review and comment later this year. Next slide, please. Our evaluation of the routes carefully weighed route alternatives based on how they performed in 4 categories: the natural environment, the socioeconomic environment, Indigenous culture, values, and land use, and technical feasibility and cost considerations. The preferred route best balances the 4 evaluation criteria. Next slide, please. The evaluation led us to route 3B as the preferred route because it maximizes the use of existing transmission corridors, including over 25 kilometers of idle transmission corridor, has the shortest line length, which will result in lower material costs and land impacted, minimizes the impact on residential properties, and Route 3B involves the least potential disruption to species at risk and their habitats, smallest amount of vegetation removal, and lowest impact to surface water resources. Route 3B has more overall advantages to the other route alternatives, and it's for that reason that we have selected it as our preferred route. Next slide, please. There's one more. Finding a location for transmission infrastructure is never an easy process, and we're grateful to all the members of the community, including farmers and property owners, who've been sharing feedback and questions with us over the last 15 months. We'll continue to work with all landowners along the preferred routes to collect information specific to properties and seek voluntary property agreements. We will give property owners choice in how they want to convey property rights to us and use independent valuation to make offers that are fair. It's important to note that although we will acquire the rights to a right-of-way for each line, which restricts any buildings for safety reasons, most farming activities can continue under the lines. Property owners will be reimbursed for project-related matters, such as out-of-production cropland during and after construction. And will take measures to minimize erosion and dust and restore temporary access roads and work areas after construction. Next slide, please. The timeline here shows the next steps towards starting construction of Line 1 in 2027 and the target and service date of 2030. We want to continue receiving feedback and will host 4 in-person open houses between June 4th to 12th in Chatham, Tilbury, Thamesville, and Glencoe. Following our open houses, our next milestone is to release the draft environmental study report for public review and comment this fall. With the preferred route selected, the detailed design phase for the proposed project can begin. Next slide, please. We'll continue working with local residents, affected property owners, Indigenous communities, municipalities, and interest groups as we plan the project. Thank you for your time. And now Mandu from our project delivery team and I are happy to answer your questions.
Yes, thank you very much. Thank you very much for the presentation. I have been impressed with your engagement with people in our community. It has not gone unnoticed. I can see there's always concerns with a project like this, and I trust that those concerns were were heard and hopefully addressed. At this time, council, any questions to Malika? Yes, Councilor Vink, please go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor Al. One of the concerns I've talked to people about the hydro line, and the hydro line, let's say, is on Knaphill Road, just barely on Knaphill Road. If someone's got a newer house on this side, do they get any compensation?
Sure, thank you for the question, the compensation principle applies only to the property owners who are directly impacted by the proposed route. People who are not, people's property who are not impacted by the route are typically not compensated. If there are some special circumstances where they have to be compensated for some specific things, we can take that into consideration. However, that is not part of our typical compensation principle.
Any follow-ups? Okay. Any more questions? Yes, Councilor McGill. This is our farmer on our council here, so.
Martin's a farmer too, right?
Yeah, Martin's a farmer.
He gets somebody else to do the work. He's done the farmer too.
Smart.
Anyway, I'm one of the affected property owners also. And I noticed that Hydro One didn't waste any time after the announcement was made. I think about a week after, there was somebody putting stakes in the ground from a locate company where the power line was going to go. And then last week, there was a soil sampling company out there testing the soil load capacity, I think. And just down the road from my house, they had pylons set up. The road was half blocked off, only for a few hours. But what's the protocol there when they're working on municipal property? Did they have to ask permission from the municipality to do that?
First of all, thank you for the question. In this specific situation, I will have to take this back to see what was done. But typically, yes, a public announcement has to be made, announcing the property owners who will be impacted by those visits, especially if they are entering into private land. Considering this was an activity done on just public roads, there may not have been a broad communication, but we're going to take this back. But typically, like I said, every time we come out and start doing any major construction activity in an area, a broad communication will be sent out, and impacted property owners and any neighbors that are also impacted will be notified.
Yes, follow-up, Councilor McGill, go ahead.
Well, I just wondered, I did have that question from a ratepayer, and I didn't know what the answer was. I know last summer I was offered $2,500 of property from Hydro One just so they could go on my land, and I said no. But I knew what would happen. They just went and found somebody else and gave him the $2,500. I know quite a few guys that got $2,500 just to go on their property, you know, and it doesn't look like the municipality got anything for you to go on our property, or the municipality's property.
Yep, I see Amanda has her hand up. Certainly our CAO will have the microphone now, please.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor Mayhew. I do know that Hydro One has filed permit applications with Southwest Middlesex for road work, and we do have agreements and deposits on file for that kind of work on the road. So just wanted to share that to the discussion today. Thanks.
Thank you very much. I'll clarify that. Yes, go ahead, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you. I'm just looking at the timeline for construction, and I'm just wondering, when can we expect to see construction locally?
The question, Councilor. The construction, the primary activity, a large construction, is expected to start sometime in, let me go back to that. Expected to start sometime in 2027 and complete by 2030. But there will be some pre-construction activities that could start as early as next year. And some of the pre-construction activities have already started, like what we had discussed earlier, doing some load testing on soil and some boreholes. So pre-construction starting now, with the pre-construction activities gearing up towards the beginning of next year and almost all of next year, and the tower construction and the actual line construction starting in 2027.
Which end does it start at?
That has not been decided yet. That is typically decided by the construction contractor that we employ. That would be based on a number of activities such as the area in which we acquire the most land by the time we start construction, and also what is most strategically convenient and reasonable for the contractor to start. There are a number of considerations we'll have to make to decide that. But once we know, we will be coming out with a more public announcement to help you understand where we start, how we're going to progress, what the stages of construction are, and all that. So we will have a number of open houses to explain to you that.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Schulman. Deputy Mayor Schulman, yes, Councillor Hague, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. So how do you compensate, how do you figure how much compensation each person gets for their property as you go through? Like, is it 10,000 an acre? Like, how do you pay people?
The compensation will be detailed out quite soon on a document called the LACPs. It's an acronym for Land Acquisition Compensation Principle, and we will be bringing it out to the individual landowners to help them understand how their compensation is. At a high level, there are a number of compensations put into that package. One is crop loss due to our presence there, right? That will be prior to construction for pre-construction activities, during construction, and a few years after construction, just to ensure that the soil has decompacted enough and the yield is back to its normal. Right? So that's one component of the compensation. The other component of the compensation is the actual easement itself, which is calculated based on a formal appraisal by an appraiser. And as a part of that easement, there is also the compensation for loss in value of the property due to the presence of that line. So injurious affection is also part of that compensation. There are a number of other things, but that will all be detailed out. These are the major items of compensation, but all that will be detailed out in that LACP document, which will be coming out to the affected landowners quite shortly.
Okay, thank you for the question, Councillor Hague. Any further questions? Perhaps I can have the last one. The route has been now chosen, and you are off to figuring out the compensation and the construction phase. The nature of the open houses, I would think, will now change. The road is now decided. So when our community goes to see you, what will the focus be on these open houses? The conversation will not be ratepayer A prefers this route, ratepayer B prefers another route. That decision has been made. So does the focus of communication change now at the three open houses that are upcoming?
Absolutely. Thank you for the question, Mr. Mayor. So you're absolutely right. The focus of the communication does change from this point on, considering that the route has changed. The focus going forward will be to understand the concerns specific landowner has with the line being on the land, and if there is any consideration that we need to make while we are progressing through this design phase. Quite shortly, we will be coming out with the tower locations as well. This is what we call as a preliminary tower location based on some early engineering completed, which will be shared with the property owners, and we will get feedback from them on any concerns they have with that as well. So the nature of the conversation will be more focused on the impact to that specific landowner and what is that we can do to relieve some of it.
Okay. And just one follow-up, the towers, how high are these towers?
We are quite early in the design phase to have a firm number to you, but it will be anywhere between 40 to 60 meters tall.
And just in relationship to that, the footing depth, the footing of that tower, how deep does that have to go with the tower?
So we have exploring a few foundation types. One of the foundation type that has been recently adopted and implemented is on the Chatham to Lakeshore line, which is basically a large screw that is screwed into the soil, and no excavation is done as in the case of a typical K-zone foundation. We are exploring that option. We have other options as well, but that would be a preferred option because that has the least impact to the environment and to the land itself. Well, absolutely no displacement if you have seen any of the Chatham to Lakeshore line. Those screw piles, if it gets adopted, those screw piles go anywhere from 6 meters to 20 meters into the ground. From the grade level, it goes 6 to 20 meters, depending on soil condition, weight of the tower, the forces that act on it, and stuff like that.
No, thank you for addressing that question. That's well understood. Okay, council, last call for questions. Don't see any. The recommendation is that the municipality of Southwest Middlesex receive the presentation from Malika and Nandu regarding the power systems project, 101 regarding the Long Vista Lakeshore core information. Is there a mover and a seconder for that? Councillor Bink, Councillor Myers, all in favor? Carried. Thank you once again. I want to compliment your company on the communication skills that you've adopted, and I know we're not over yet in that talk, but it's nice to see things moving forward, and that the addresses, the concerns addressed in these meetings are being met and solved. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mayor.
Council, we're now on the consent agenda. I'll go through these briefly. If there's any concerns, just raise your hand. If we can deal with them immediately, we will. If they're more complex, we'll move them through business. Consent agenda. 5.1, draft minutes of the May 21st meeting. Vouchers report for May. County of Middlesex, Committee of the Whole regarding Bill 17. Build Ontario Faster and Smarter Act. 5.4, Middlesex London Health Unit, May report. Town of LaSalle, resolution of supporting regarding Northern Health Travel Grant Program. 5.6, Councillor Paula Banks, South Bridges Award, Township of Rideau, Lakes resolution of support regarding strong mayor's policy. I think we've gone through that. Deputy Solicitor General, Community Safety Ministry of the Solicitor General, Ontario Provincial Policing Cost Recovery Model and Review in June 2025 webinars. And from the Honorable Jill Dunlop, Minister of Emergency Preparedness and Response Emergency Management and Modernization Act 2025. And Honorable King Discernment, Minister of Infrastructure, Housing, Enabling Water Systems Funds, and the Infrastructure Investment. Council, you've heard the communications that have come in. What's your wish? To adopt the consent agenda as presented? So, okay, thank you, Councillor Myers. Second for that. Councillor Haggett, all in favor? Carried. Council, I met with their CAO this morning. No committee of adjustment at this meeting. In regard to public meetings, there are none. However, on staff reports, we've got some Chief Administrator Officer, Independent Electricity Systems Operator, Procurement Process, and Wind Energy. Amanda, will you walk us through this?
Thank you for you, Mayor Mayhew, and to Council. Before you is a report outlining the Independent Electricity Systems Operator, or IESO's, procurement process for wind energy projects. This report is provided for information to you today, just to enhance Council's understanding and awareness for future conversations that may be happening in our community. So I am aware of at least 2, perhaps 3 potential wind companies who are contacting local landowners to solicit potential locations for wind projects. And through that process, they would propose land assemble, and then propose projects to the IESO as part of their fall 2025 procurement process. Now that process, unlike the process you may recall of the Green Energy Act a number of years ago, does require a council resolution for a project to be able to proceed and to be submitted to the IESO, which is different. So council does hold significant authority to be able to agree or not agree to the presence of wind projects in our community. It should be noted that if projects are supported by local communities, there are community benefit agreements available to municipalities that are that certainly do provide a financial advantage, and those would be negotiated and terms would be set out in the future. Given the energy needs of the province, as outlined by Hydro One, there are energy needs, and that is why the IESO has opened up the wind turbine project. So for today, this report is just here for information. I'm happy to answer any questions. As next steps, if approved by council, I would intend to continue to gather more information, invite the wind company proponents to present to council, so you're familiar with the projects that are being explored in our community, and then also explore some third-party review and support of potential templates for community benefit and road user agreements. And that exploration would be done at no cost to the municipality. So happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you very much, Amanda. Council, again, we received the report for information and to authorize our CAO and the clerk to find additional information and gather conversations with the providers. And it will certainly come before council, any decisions and discussions. Council, any questions? Yes, Councilor Myers.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm just gonna go on record saying that I don't want these things in my municipality. I'm just one person, but there's a lot of people who are saying the same thing, so I'm dead against them.
Right, we got that? Yep. Mark, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor Mayhew. I've been approached by a couple landowners that have actually signed agreements with windmill companies. They tell me they'll get about $25,000 per windmill. And one guy has 3, him and other family members. So, my province, they're in favor of all kinds of electric energy, like I said. They're okay with nuclear, wind, solar, gas, hydro. I'm kind of thinking the same way that we're going to need more electricity, so we should let it happen. And $300,000 or $400,000 a year annually for one wind farm would be a tremendous help to this municipality. So I see a lot more benefit in this than having a transmission line run through our municipality. We can't stop that. We're going to get paid once on the transmission line, and then we won't get anything more again. It'll be there forever, and we'll have to look at it. But these windmills, we're going to be getting paid every year. So to me, I think we'd be foolish to have the transmission line going through our municipality and then not allow windmills. And also, the areas where they want to put them are generally areas where there's not many houses around. And that's why they picked those locations, so there won't be too much of a conflict with neighboring houses.
Thank you for your remarks. Yes, Councilor Shoulders.
I would just like to, just a comment that I would like to encourage public engagement with these companies. They can't get set like what hydro's done. I think we really have to go public meeting engagement to get feedback.
Thank you. Yeah, I've conversed with mayors that have these windmills in the municipality, and they too, as Hydro One, try to walk softly and inform the community of what's going on, but by and large, once they're established, the revenues are part of tax stabilization. As they keep property taxes down, they allow the municipality to serve their constituents better. And I know there is an aversion by some out there, but a lot of those concerns have been addressed through science and better communication and procedural avenues that they take. And I don't think we should just discard it completely. Councilor Pink, did I see your hand move there? Thank you for your patience there. Go ahead, Mark.
Thank you, Mayor Al. Yeah, I agree with Deputy Mayor and Councilor Gill with public sentiment and all that. However, I think it should be public sentiment in the area where you're going, not necessarily through the whole municipality, because they're the ones that are going to be affected only.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Go ahead, Councilor Gill.
Yeah, and I think we also need to remember, like the previous provincial government, they vastly overpaid some of these wind companies and solar people. I got 3 solar panels and I'm getting paid like way more than my local rate for electricity for those. And now the provincial policy is more, yeah, they're supporting the idea of windmills and solar, but they're not gonna pay exorbitant rates that could make people have to pay more for their electricity. I don't think. If these things are done, they're gonna have to be cost competitive.
Councilor Haggett.
Well, I go all over, and some spin, some don't. And anybody that owns land, of course they care about the municipality and the environment, they want the money for the things going in there. So I think that it needs to be really paid attention to if you're thinking of bringing them in, because everywhere you drive, they're nice. And they don't always run. They can say they're turning, they're not always turning. But that's just my opinion. And we have a nice municipality, lots of nice areas. If you want to go around the edge of town, see 10 windmills spinning. I guess that's up to the ratepayers.
Some people find them an attractive way to get energy. Not all adverse to it. What I find now is that I can remember going to Mount Forest and seeing the first installation when they came, and drove up to it. Purposely went there to see these because I knew that they would be used in an increasing manner in Ontario. Now, when we go down Longwoods Road, you get to Thamesville and you can see them now in Thamesville. You used to have to go as far as Lynn or someplace to Leamington to see them, but now you can certainly see them from Thamesville, and at night you can see the red lights on the top from positions east of Thamesville. But they have been accepted by many municipalities and many individuals. Go ahead, Councilor McGill.
I can see them from my house in broad daylight. I just have to look over towards Strathroy, and you can see those ones from my place that are in Adelaide, I believe.
I think
Of course,
council,
at night you can see them even more.
I think council will have to look at several things. One, the first and foremost is public acceptance, and I agree that much of the conversation has to be directed towards the agricultural sector, because unfortunately, when it comes to transmission lines and windmills, it is they who suffer the burden from that. And as I say, if there's a monetary gain from this, we will certainly have to make sure that we consider the agricultural sector and the disbursement of funds. Secondly, again, I say we have to keep an open mind. They are environmentally friendly. They There is going to be a vast need for energy in the future, as we've just heard. Currently, hydro is oversubscribed at present, and we have to find more sources. And as any situation that comes before our horseshoe, we have to weigh the pros and the cons and then make that decision. But I'll take any coaching from our CAO. I believe we are receiving this information and asking her to proceed and get more information so that council can make the right decision. Is that correct? Okay, is there a mover and a second for the recommendation? Councilor Link, thank you. Second for that. Councilor McCollum. All in favor? Carried. Opposed? Carried. Okay, we have 812. Municipal Housing Infrastructure Program, Health and Safety Water Stream Grant Application on the Glencoe Outlet Drain. We are, staff are asking our permission that they apply for funds, the province of Ontario for this. Amanda, would you like to expand on that, please?
Certainly through you, Mayor. This report recommends submitting a grant to the Municipal Housing Infrastructure Program, Health and Safety Water Stream, for phase 1 of the Glencoe Outlet Drain. As council is aware, money was allocated in the 2025 budget to support the design of that project. So it is already underway, and the project, as we know, is a great need and does qualify under the program. The project improves stormwater capacity, protects home and business, and prepares us for growth. Should we be successful with the grant application, the funding would be 73% of the project total, or $3.43 million. The remaining 27%, or $1.2 billion, would be funded from the municipality, with funding sources to be determined in the future. So council has already had that discussion that in 26 we will discuss how those funds would be allocated. This grant, I feel, is a strategic opportunity to reduce the future costs of this essential project on our community and on our taxpayers. The application deadline is June 26th, and we are already working on the grant application. We're just seeking council endorsement to submit along with the grant application and requesting endorsement. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. Council, we certainly appreciate the partnership with the province of Ontario on this, and we certainly hope that we would be successful should the council approve the application process. Is there any questions? The recommendation is before you. All in favor? Okay, I'll move it. Also, yeah, second for that, please. Councilor Hagan, all in favor? Carried unanimously. I know when it comes to money from the province of Ontario, it will pass, because we certainly need it. And we'll make sure that our MPP is advised of our application, and hopefully he'll advocate on our behalf. 812 is done. 813, Final Asset Management Plan, 2024 and 2025. There's a recommendation before you. Amanda, again, would you like to speak to this?
Yes, through you, Mayor. This report presents our final asset management plan, which meets the Ontario regulation requirements for both 2024 and 2025. As we saw earlier, the plan was prepared by InfraLevel, and it does cover all municipal assets of $425 million. The plan ensures we are now fully compliant with legislation, which I think is a great accomplishment. Asset management will continue to be a living process. So with this plan adopted is a strong foundation, but we will need to continue to update it regularly to work with the data and ensure it's as up to date as possible. The approval of the plan and policy is recommended. As a result of approval, there are no new financial impacts. The cost associated
chair reminds council again that we are mandated to have this policy from the province of Ontario. Any questions? Yes, Deputy Mayor Schultes.
I'll move the recommendation.
Okay, is there a seconder for that? Councilor Emery? Yeah, one question, go ahead, Mike.
I think I'd asked this last time, we're good for 5 years now, is this a 5-year term on this, so to speak? Or when does it need to be renewed?
Thank you, so great question. At this time, I'm not familiar with a 5-year renewal term. I presume that with the end of this Ontario regulation, the province will come out with a new regulation to add more data. We will work with the plan note every year to keep it up to date.
Would you mind if we ask Brian if he could comment on that?
Yes, Brian's still here. He would be a great resource to answer that question for me. Thank you.
Thank you for the question. There is a 5-year requirement to update the plan. There's also an annual requirement for staff to report to council with an update. So it's somewhat less formal in terms of reporting, but there is that check-in annually as well.
That's great, thanks for the clarification.
Thank you. Any further questions, council? This is a significant tool in our toolbox to operate the municipality, particularly in grant applications. We have a strong account of the assets we have, the shape they're in, and their importance to our municipality. And quite honestly, it improves our chance of being successful at acquiring grants when we have the proper and current information that we can convey to the province. So the recommendation is before you. Council, what's your wish? Is there a mover and a seconder for this? Councilor Hannigan? Councilor Emery? Oh, it's already there? Okay, all right, good. Got it, all right. Good. Last call for questions. All in favor of the recommendation? Carried unanimously. 8.14 is the award, the request for proposal for stormwater management rate study. Amanda, you're on deck again. Amanda is kind of filling in for Morrow today, so we appreciate her efforts in this. Go ahead, Amanda, anytime.
Thank you, and thank you, Mayor. This report is as you recall, Council approved $50,000 in the 2025 capital budget for a stormwater rate study to support sustainable and fair infrastructure funding. As a result, an RFP was issued for this study through our finance department, and 3 proposals were received. The results of the review are included in the report, and Watson and Associates was considered achieved the highest score. They have strong experience and a clear understanding of our needs. Their bid was $43,514, which is under budget. This study will review costs, funding models, and rate structures with implementation targeted. It's very tight at this time, actually, for January 1st, 2026, but that's what we're targeting. All of the structures will come back to council, and council will be involved in reviewing the results of the study and making a plan for the municipality on a go-forward basis. Today, the recommendation is to award the project to Watson Associates so that we can proceed on to next steps.
Is there any questions from councillors? Yes, Deputy Mayor Schultes, go ahead, please.
Through you to Amanda, will the ultimate end result of this result in a fee on people's water bill, a new charge on people's water bill?
Thank you through you, Mayor, to Deputy Mayor. I think that's a strong potential. But it depends, is the answer. So the idea of doing a stormwater rate study is to look at all of our stormwater costs. We do know that we are underfunded in that area, unlike in water and wastewater where we have those rates already established. And as we know, we have some large needs, particularly in our urban areas, for stormwater infrastructure. So the intent will be to review those needs and create a fee structure. Now, there will be different models, And it could be a fee that's included on the water bill, certainly that's an option. Could be a fee that's included on some water bills in urban areas only, for example. Or could be a general tax levy applied everywhere. So with Watson Associates, it's a possibility. But all those models would be reviewed as part of the study and presented to council for council's direction and feedback on how you would all like to see that implemented. And if one mechanism was less attractive than another, certainly council would have the ability to provide that feedback and direct a certain path for the fee to be implemented.
Okay, good, I didn't want to be in favor of this and not be in favor later on, putting it on the water, this is why we spend this money.
In addition, I think it has to be part of the conversation that whether you want to call it climate change or just or any other title you wish to adopt, we are becoming warmer and wetter as a municipality. And I can tell you, we've had some very, very significant rainfalls in southwest Middlesex. We had that 9-inch rain at one time. That was followed by 2 rains that exceeded 3 and 4 inches. So there's been some pretty heavy rains we've received. And to have those in such a short period of time is somewhat unusual. I talked to meteorologists, and we're positioned right between 3 lakes. We've got Lake St. Clair, Erie, and Huron. We seem to get some of these significant rains. Okay, council, the recommendation is that we acquire the services of Watch and Associates to do the storm water rates study. What is your wish? To accept the recommendation as presented? Is there a mover and a second? Councilor Emery, thank you. Second, Councilor Haggard, thank you too. Any discussion? All in favor? Carried. Boy, we're doing all this stuff. We're going to have to get this development going, guys. We want shovels in the ground. Well, this is good news on the next. The county loan approval for the industrial park. Amanda, I'll let you start off.
Thank you, Mayor Mayhew. So this report confirms the approval of our loan request through the county's economic development loan program. So the loan will provide us up to $687,500 at 0% interest financing for 15 years to support servicing the Glencoe Business and Industrial Park. As you may recall, the funding model for the overall project does include 50% from the SOIF grant, 25% from the county loan, and 25% municipal share to be contemplated in the 2026 budget. The loan is, I think, a key milestone in securing our funding for this project. So in addition to the staff report, there's also a bylaw on the agenda today which authorizes the signing of the loan agreement. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Council, what was that to begin? Anyway, it's very good to have this. There are parameters for county loans. This at 0% interest. That when they sold properties that Middlesex County administration were operating in, we wanted to make sure that that money was spent wisely, and we could retain that money for tax stabilization and growth. And we are lucky that we're one of the few municipalities, or counties rather, in Ontario that are in a position that can do this. The financial position of Middlesex County is very good, and this provides all municipalities the opportunity to access funds at a more than competitive rate. Any further comments or questions from council? Yes, go ahead, Councilor Myers.
I'd like to go with the recommendation, please.
Okay. Yeah. Second. That's good. Move on. Any questions? All in favor? Carried. And thank you, Amanda, for putting that in. And many thanks to Middlesex County for their acceptance of that. Okay, we're getting there. Backyard chickens, there's a recommendation that that report be received as information. Is there any comments or questions on it? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion? Okay, is there a mover and a seconder? Councilor Myers, any questions? Yes, go ahead, Councilor McGill.
Yeah, so through the mayor to Kendra. So if we approve this recommendation, then there won't be really any more action at this time unless we.
Yeah, so this report is just covering an outstanding resolution from 2023 where a member of council requested I look into the rural residential that were over 0.9 acres. As noted in the report, there's 160 rural residential properties, but only 5 were actually over that acreage. So my report's recommending no change, allowing chickens in agricultural properties only.
Yeah, so there were 5 properties within Southwest Middlesex that would meet the criteria of that. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so how are these, there's a lot of properties out in the country that are, what's the size they would have to be bigger than?
So the request from the council member at the time was rural residential zoning that were over 0.9 acres. So using GIS mapping, I got all the rural residential properties and there was a total of 160 properties. And then I exported the Excel and found out the acreage of each. So there are properties in the country, but they might not be zoned rural residential. They weren't taken into account in this report.
Okay, so now when we approve a severance, what is that house park zoned as?
I think that depends on the planning application and the recommendation from the planner. Sometimes it's for residential, sometimes it's hamlet residential, and sometimes it's A1 where they can allow that house. So I think those are all specific zoning. I think that if you were to do a planning application and wanted to keep the chickens, you would put that in your application so that the zoning would be appropriate for that.
And though we like bylaws to be considered by our ratepayers, we do act on the full in this situation. Yes. I have seen a few signs for eggs for sale in front of individuals' houses, so yeah, it does exist. But where they cause a concern, then we have to act. Okay, council, we have a recommendation on the floor. Council must make a decision on this. I'll call the questions. Last call for questions. All in favor? All opposed? Carried. Kendra, thank you for your work on that. It doesn't go unnoticed. Finance none. Public Works, McMaster streetlights, and we are very up to date on this because we just had some communications. Amanda and I both considered a few minutes ago. So Amanda, I'll let you take over there.
Actually, I'd like to refer to Mauro, who's
Oh,
joined
okay.
us by
All
Zoom.
right. Oh, good. That's great. Mauro, thank you very much for being with you. I didn't see you up there. Yeah.
Thank you, Mayor.
Your glasses look like shades. I thought you were a movie star or something.
Through the mayor to council, this is a verbal update on the McMaster Street streetlight project. Staff have obtained 3 quotes for the proposed work. The lowest bid received was approximately $40,000, which is within budget. Staff currently are working with the lowest bidder and have submitted an application to Hydro One for the approved electrical layout for the streetlights. To date, staff have received 1 concern opposing the installation of the streetlights. If council is supportive, staff recommend reaching out to the concerned resident, requesting that they gather a petition from the property owners on McMaster Place. Should more than 50% of the property owners express opposition to the project, staff recommending deferring the streetlight installation. And staff will provide an update on the petition in the Friday weekly updates. And I'm here to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you. That sounds very fair. Oral? All right. Any questions from council? Yes, go ahead, Councilor McGill.
Well, when I voted for the budget, I just assumed people on McMaster Street wanted streetlights, but since then I've found out that maybe they don't. So I would like to move that we, have Morrow contact the person that contacted him, and, that we find out basically, I think there's 12 houses on that street.
Yeah.
We find out how many are for and how many are against.
Yep,
And
and
then that the report come back to council.
and that was part of Morrow's recommendation as well, so,
So basically, I'm moving
yeah,
his recommendation.
you're gonna move it?
Yeah.
Okay. Second?
No question.
Yeah, so I'll get a second first, George, then we'll have a question. Is there a second? Thank you, Deputy Mayor Schultz. Go ahead, Councilor Hagan.
Through the mayor to Laurel, is it a liability for the municipality if there's no lights on that street and something happens in the urban area? Somebody trips and falls, breaks their leg, say it's too dark.
Well, through the mayor to Councillor Haggett, I'm assuming previously when that subdivision was constructed, it wasn't a requirement in the design standards. Moving forward with any new development, streetlights, sidewalks are all a requirement. There's always a liability, but at the end of the day, it's council's wishes if we want to install the streetlights there or not.
Okay. Laurel, there's, in terms of roads, as you say, there are guidelines and requirements made. Obviously, the expression of liability, that we're not directed to bring up older subdivisions to newer subdivision standards. Is that okay? Like, I know we recently put streetlights in Middlesex, I believe, not long ago. And, you know, they didn't seem to have to go through the public acceptance. We just determined that they're a requirement of urban housing at some point.
Through you, the mayor, typically with requests for streetlights, it's typically just a request that comes into the municipality with older subdivisions. It's not something that we budget for or I guess go to meet the current standards that we have. It's only with the new subdivisions that we require them. Anything pre-existing usually comes through a recommendation either from council or from the residents.
Okay. Yeah. All right. The only comment I'd like to make, I very often get behind a school bus at McMaster Place in Glen Direct. And I'll tell you, there's a pile of kids that get off the bus there, a real pile. And I think there's almost a dozen that get off the bus at that one bus stop. It's kind of takes your breath away when you see how many exits. So I was under the impression that streetlights there might be a benefit to those concerned. Anyway, the recommendation is before us. I think the recommendation is very fair. We are practicing our due diligence, but we're also allowing the residents to voice their opinion as well. It's been moved and seconded. I'll call the question. All in favor? Recommendation by the council has been accepted. Community service and facilities, the Glencoe Ball Diamond. Kevin, this is going to fall in your lap here, I gotta say. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you, Mayor. Through you, for you to report on the purchase and installation of the lights for the ball diamond there in Glencoe. 3 quotes were received and all 3 came in over budget. And I'm here to answer any questions you may have.
Okay, council, opportunity to ask questions on the recommendation for additional funds or your determination of need. What's your wish? Yeah, there's a couple here. I'm going to go to Councilor Myers because I think he has his finger on his mic right now. So go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. These lights need to be done here because we've had ball games that have been canceled because you can't see at night. So for safety reasons, you know, I think it has to be done. So I want to move it. So yeah, there's no other questions.
All right, Councilor McGill, I know you have a question. I get a second before I ask any more questions. Councillor Haggett. Clerk has got that. Myers, Haggett. Councillor McGill, please go ahead.
Yeah, through the mayor to Kevin, can we not get lights from somewhere other than the United States? It mentions in your report tariffs, you know, surely you're gonna speak, don't need to get them from the US.
That's a good question. Thank you through the mayor. I have looked into that, and the issue is the Spartan company, which is the one that makes the lights. I believe they were the ones that made the poles as well. So it's not just replacing a fit. It's basically plug and play is what they call it. They take off the old fixtures, they drop the new fixtures in because they're fitted for those specific poles. So the electricians have looked into other, and the cost is actually higher because now you're having to adapt the other light fixtures to the poles. Whereas the Spartan ones, they're Spartan poles, they're Spartan lights. You take the old ones off, you drop the new ones on.
Any other questions? Yes, Deputy Mayor Schultes.
Just wondered when would this happen, when would they be installed?
If the recommendation is approved, I would call them tomorrow and the order would be in. Yeah, they're waiting just for the approval. And then, yeah, they're in stock, it's just having to get here.
Yes, Councillor McGill. It's, do we use a local installer for that, do we?
Yeah, the quotes came in from 3 local electricians, so, and all the pricing through the Spartan brand, so all the lighting pricing that they all receive, they're all the same, so the only difference in the pricing between the companies is the labor.
And this is a labor-intensive job. The cost, the majority of the cost, obviously the thing that comes from
It's equipment too, there's a 100-foot crane that they have to bring in, because the poles are 80 feet high, so, and I was told by the one company that they'd be here in 2 days and they'd be gone. So.
Yeah, I'm going to let Councillor McGill be patient, and I'll follow you next step here. Go ahead, Mark.
So it says we're just gonna do one, but there's some lights burned out in 2, right? So can they take, say, there'll be some good bulbs in, can they move them over? So basically we have two diamonds that are completely operable. Take some of the good bulbs out of the one that's being replaced and put in the other old one, and then we'll have, you know, one diamond with all LEDs and the other diamond with a full set of the old lights.
Yeah, that's a good question. It'll be diamond 2, which is the one that faces the pool. That's going to be done first, because that's the fair uses that one more often. Soccer, any kind of functions that are done. The tractor pull, majority of them use. It's kind of backwards. Diamond 1 faces the retirement home, and Diamond 2 faces the pool, so it's just kind of mismatched. The lighting, so with that cost, the lighting actually does the 4 outfield posts for Diamond 2, and then any good bulbs or ballasts that come off, the ones that are being taken off, will be replacing any of the birthday. That's all included in that cost.
Okay, this makes sense. Yes, thanks for your patience, Deputy Mayor. Go ahead.
Just a couple of questions. Is there an expected lifespan on these things, and is there a warranty on them?
I haven't seen through the electrician, they haven't shown me the actual Spartan layout of it all, but yeah, there would be warranty and all that on the lighting fixtures with the LEDs.
Maybe we can get that during an update or something, just for the warranty is on it.
All products have a warranty, I believe. And you know, the source of the fixture is limited, obviously. So it looks like the Spartan may have no other option to go with Spartan, honestly. All right, but that information I would suggest it can be checked and the communication can sent to council or the deputy mayor. Okay, thank you very much. But Mike will get the answer to that question. Okay, recommendations for us. What's your wish, council? All in favor? All opposed? Voted? Okay. Project 2000 concession request. Amanda, can you walk us through this one? Oh, Kevin's report on that one too, sorry. Yep, thanks. I chatted with Amanda today on that, Kevin. But you, by all means, please go ahead, Kevin.
Thank you, Mayor. Through you, for use to report on the RFP results for the Project 2000 concession booth. There was only one submission put in, and staff recommends awarding the RFP to Huddle Hut, is the name of the company, for the 2025 season. Here to answer any questions you may have.
Again, if this passes council's approval, Kevin, when would they start? When's their availability?
They've already reached out, said they have everything ready to go. They're actually going to supply the majority of their own equipment, their own staffing. They've sent out a menu of what they would be cooking. So it's, as soon as they get the go ahead, they get in there.
They have a business plan, and that's good.
Yep.
Okay, council. Yeah, go ahead, Councilor. Deputy Mayor, I think you asked a question too, but we'll get you after Councilor Baker. Okay.
Thank you, Mayor Al. There's no figures here. Is there a cost that we have to set it up, or, and are they paying rent, or how's it all working?
For the first year, just to get the ball rolling and put it out there, the first year was going to be on us. It's no cost to us. We're just going to clean the building for them to get them started, and then once they're up and rolling, they're in charge of the cleaning, their own hours, whatever hours they want to work, that's completely up to them. Whatever they want to serve, that's completely up to them. We're just offering the space to offer service to the public for soccer, baseball, the fair, and whatever else there is in the area.
Yes, go ahead, Deputy Mayor.
Can they get a complete schedule of events down there so that they know when to be open?
Yeah, I've already talked to the owner, and once everything's said and done, we'll handle the soccer schedule, baseball nights, any of the events, tractor pulls, the fairs. They'll have a full schedule there, and then they don't have staff.
Okay. Okay, is there a second for that? Councilor Myers, Kevin, additional garbage containers will have, waste containers will have to be around that area too, no doubt. So I'm sure facilities will look after that as well. Okay, yeah, question?
Is it appropriate for me to ask where Huddle Hut is from?
It's a local residence. They actually used to run the food truck at the corner of Main and McRae, right at the corner there. So they have all their own equipment. They've got the coffee makers, the deep fryers. They have everything from previously running their own food truck.
Okay, I'll call the question then. All in favor? Carried. Okay, council, I'm going to pass the gavel to Mike just for a minute. Mike, leave you for just a few minutes. Right on 8-6 right there, Michael. Okay, so okay, we're all set.
So we'll turn the mic on. So we are at 8.6, the fire is none, building none, planning none. Notice of motion, I don't see any. Correspondence, petitions, unfinished, there is no unfinished business. New business arising from the agenda. No one's here. County Council Conference updates, any announcements? I think Mayor, you had an announcement, but we can come back to it later because of the Main Street party. But we will move on. So we will now move into closed session. And can I get Hoover to move into closed session, please? Councilor Collin, seconder. Councilor Myers, all in favor? Thank you.